Arena! Hey, Chris in the house with another Raid Shadow Legends video. And today, guys, we're going to talk about one of the best champions in the game. He's kind of new, at the same time he's not new, but he will be new for many accounts. Because he only recently we are able to put our hands into it. We're talking about the one and only EMBRYS the Anomaly. He is the mythical champion that comes from the Chimera. This massive champion here. Oh my gosh. A mythical champion. Support on the first form. HP based but a nuker on the second form. Incredible champion. Force affinity with many things that we want to address to him. This is going to be an interesting video. Take a look at it because we're going to debate everything about this champion. And let's go. First, let me give a huge shout out to Tommy Boy here, my cluster mate, who let me jump into his account to make this video possible. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And let's jump into the champion now. EMBRYS the Anomaly, as I said, a Night Revenant champion, Force Affinity, mythical champion. What a champion. What a crazy champion. The aesthetic of the champion is really cool. Looks like a priest of a of a strange cult. And on the second form, looks like whatever it worship on that cult. The priest itself, and it became a vessel to it. The anomaly is here. EMBRYS the Anomaly. If you read it fast, looks like embrace the anomaly, which is really cool. So let's go to read the kit and see why this champion is as amazing as people think he is. First form, the support form. Let's take a look at the kit. A1, Fatted Glaive. Attack all enemies, destroy each target max HP by 3%, stacks up to 30%. Also increase the duration of a random debuff on all enemies by 1 turn. This effect cannot be resisted if any enemies have necrosis stacks on them, based on HP. Interesting A1, AoE A1 is going to reduce enemy max HP, which is good, and also increase the random debuffs on the enemy by 1 turn. Really interesting. Not bad for an A1. The necrosis here is a new debuff. We're gonna talk about him when we talk about the A3 or the passive. A2, Void Stare. 4 turns cooldown. Places a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. And a 50% decrease attack debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. This effect cannot be resisted if enemies have any necrosis stacks. Then grants an extra turn. Really good skill. True Fear and decrease attack. Really impactful. Cannot be resisted if there are necrosis on the enemy team. Really strong. And grants an extra turn, which is really good. Not for this skill itself, but to rotate faster between the other abilities of this champion. And by other abilities, I'm talking about the A3. Because this next skill is what makes this champion a respectful champion on this game. We're talking about it. The unmaking. Look at the size of the description of the skills effects. Huge description. And very impactful skill. Let's take a look at it. 4 turns cooldown. Damage based on HP. When booked, ignores 20% of the resistance. First part. Attack all enemies. Interesting, but at the same time, something that you need to pay attention, because EMBRYS is Force Affinity, and if it attacks all enemies and the effects are based on the touch of the skills, the Force Affinity might play a role in this skill. If you're facing the wrong affinity spirit, you're gonna suffer a little bit to land these debuffs. So pay attention in this aspect. But let's go to the other ports. Remove second port. Remove any stone skin buffs and replaces them with true fear debuffs. Block debuff buffs will be replaced with block buffs debuffs. Guys, this is a one of his kind skill. Because, au contrary from the most of skills, that the remove sport is the majority of the impactful importance of the skill. On this skill, and that's the first in the game, the replacement is the most impactful part of the text here. Because this is the real effect of the skill. It not removes only, it replaces. And by not only removing, replacing, it changes the way the game approaches to it. Why it's so important, this word here? Because if you're trying to remove Stone Skin, the Stone Skin set passive will add a 50% of chance of that failing when you're trying to do it. So any champion trying to decrease the turn of the Stone Skin or trying to remove the Stone Skin has a 50% of chance of making that move skill fail. But EMBRYS, he's the first one replacing the Stone Skin. So when you're trying to replace, it does not consider as a remove itself. So it does not get affected by the 50% chance of the Stone Skin set. Which means when these champions trying to remove the Stone Skin debuff, it's going to be 100% of chance of doing it. And he's the first champion in the game that's able to do it. AoE. This is, just by that part, an absolutely amazing skill that puts this champion at the top of the meta. Just by that part. And there's more. There is more. Third part of the skill also removes any buffs positively affecting stats and replaces them with the mirrored debuff equivalent. For example, increased attack it's replaced by decreased attack, continuous heal and strength are replaced by heal reduction and weaken. If you have increased defense, it will be replaced by decreased defense, and things like that. The mirror debuffs will have the same duration as the debuffs before they were replaced. Then, fourth part of the skill, use 5% of each target's turn meter for each buff converted into a debuff by this skill. Also decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 20%. This is huge. These effects cannot be resisted if enemies have any necrosis stacks on them, HP based. Guys, this is an unbelievable skill. This skill is so strong that if you have to rank all the skills in the game, this skill might be in the top 10 alone. Guys, oh gosh, this is a meta champion just by that skill. If you disconsider everything else on his kit, just by that skill, he's already in the top of the meta. So, if you got EMBRYS, build him to use that. And if you don't want to use any other part of his kit that we're going to talk about. Passive. Wrongful existence. Whenever an enemy is killed, places one necrosis stack on all other enemies. Necrosis stacks cannot be resisted or blocked. Necrosis stacks can only be removed by reviving dead allies. This effect does not work against bosses as their minions and their minions. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, this effect will only be activated once. At the start and the end of the champion's turn, instantly activated necrosis stacks on all enemies. Ooh, my gosh, this is a really impactful really impactful passive. The amount of damage this passive can do is amazing. Let's take a look at the Necrosis debuff itself. Necrosis debuff, it was introduced into the game by the Chimera. Right now, at this moment, there are only two things that can put the Necrosis on you. Chimera itself and EMBRYS the Anomaly, this mythical that we're talking about on this video. So, these are the only two sources of Necrosis in the game that we see right now. Maybe in the future there will be more. But at the moment this video is being recorded, only these two are present in the game. What does Necrosis do? When an enemy champion dies, a single Necrosis stack is placed on all other alive enemies. When another champion dies, an additional Necrosis stack will be placed on all other alive enemies, and so on. Each Necrosis stack deal equal to 5% of the champion's max HP at the beginning of the turn. For example, if a champion has 3 Necrosis stacks, damage is equal to 50% of the max HP will be dead to them at the beginning of their turn. Necrosis stacks do not decrease upon activation at the beginning of a champion's turn, and Necrosis is placed on champions in respective of the number of debuffs that are currently on them. For example, if you have 10 debuffs already on the champion, you still can put Necrosis on them, because it's a stack, not a debuff itself. Damage dealt by Necrosis cannot be increased by other effects, and the placement of Stone Skin buff will remove Necrosis. If there are any dead enemy champions in the battle after the Stone Skin expires, Necrosis stacks equal to the number of dead enemy champions will be reapplied. Interesting, if you put Stone Skin, it will deactivate the Necrosis. But if the Stone Skin expires, the Necrosis come back as strong as it were before the Stone Skin were placed. When a dead enemy champion is revived, a single Necrosis stack will be removed from all alive enemies. If multiple champions are revived, Necrosis stack will be removed equal to the number of champions revived. Let me explain that in an easy way. Let's take, for example, an arena team that you have 4 champions. If one of your champions is killed, 1 stack of Necrosis will be placed in the remaining alive champions of your team. At the beginning of their turns, they're going to take 5% of their max HP as damage as an effect of Necrosis. This stack will stay there forever until this dead ally is revived. If this dead ally is revived, 0 stacks of Necrosis will be there. But if 2 champions are killed and 2 stay alive, each remaining one will have 2 stacks of Necrosis on them, which means 10% of their HP will be dealt as damage in the beginning of their turns until these 2 champions are revived. If 1 champion stays alive and 3 are dead, this champion will have 3 stacks of Necrosis, which means he's going to lose 15% of his HP, max HP, in the beginning of his turn as damage until these champions get revived. So having the turn taken does not remove stacks from Necrosis. It works like an HP burn. Similar, but HP burns, every time it burns, a stack of the HP burn is consumed, and if all of them are consumed, the debuff is gone. Necrosis is different. It's based on the dead champions of your team that are there. As long as they stay dead, the stack is going to be here. So, for example, if on this team only 1 was alive and you had 3 Necrosis stacks, if you revive 2, these 3 will have 1 stack. If you revive all of them, no Necrosis stacks will be there. If 2 other are killed, then the 2 remaining will have 2 stacks on them. And that's how it works. And EMBRYS passive will also trigger the Necrosis in the beginning and in the end of EMBRYS turn, which makes him a massive damage dealer, passive damage dealer. Just by being there, if you kill someone, he's going to do massive amount of damage. Because on the beginning of his turn, 5% of enemy, if one enemy is killed on the arena, 5% of the enemy HP is gone. At the end of his turn, more 5%. On the beginning of the turn of the champion, more 5%. 15% just by existing. And if there are many enemies dead, this damage you only get higher. This is EMBRYS first song. Oh, it also has an increased ally HP aura in all battles by 35%. Just this first one, it's already amazing. But it's a mythical champion. It gets even better. Second form, when he embraces the anomaly, he becomes a nuker. And this nuker has this hit. A1, Unmaker's Blade. Attack one enemy, places an extra hit if the target has any necrosis stacks on them. Also places a block revive debuff if this attack kills an enemy. Damage is based on HP and accuracy. Guys, what do we have here? The first champion in the game that has two sources of damage to a skill that are HP and accuracy. We have a few other champions that have two sources of damage, but this is the first one with HP and accuracy. We have a similar thing going for the Synchronous mythical champion that uses attack and accuracy as base sources of his damage. And here for the Chimera, we have HP and accuracy, which is really interesting. Having two sources of damage is really incredible because you have more chances of getting higher damage. Even if the multiplier of the skill is not very high, two sources of damage will make this multiplier works even better. So A1 that has a block revive automatically becomes a really impactful skill. And a A1 that has two sources of damage can be a very dangerous A1. Very dangerous A1. So, can be a double hit if there is necrosis, and double source of damage. When you have double source of damage, the thing that comes first is the higher source, and the thing that comes second is the secondary source, which don't means it's not important, but will add up to your damage if you places more HP and more accuracy. A2, Atomize. 3 turns cooldown. Attack all enemies. Deals double damage to enemies whose accuracy is lower than this champion accuracy. Interesting. Ignores 50% of each enemy's defense whose accuracy is equal or higher to this champion's accuracy. Oh my god, amazing. Amazing, and has two sources of damage, HP and accuracy. So this is an AoE attack that if you have your accuracy higher than your enemy is going to double your damage, which is amazing by itself. This skill hits hard. And if your enemy has higher accuracy than you, you're going to ignore 50% of the enemy's defense, which is massive. So you have a double source of damage, and you have the capability of doing double the damage or ignoring 50% of the enemy's defense on a nuking skill AoE. That's huge, brothers. This skill can do really good amount of damage. And there's more. A3, your life is for fate. 4 turns cooldown. Swaps HP with an enemy if the target is a boss. Fully restore this champion destroyed max HP and fully heal this champion instead. Each time this skill is used, increases this champion ignore defense effect by 10% while they are in the alternate form. Stacks up to 50%. And grants an extra turn. This is massive, brothers. This is massive. You can use this skill to either restore your HP and stacks more ignore defense to your EMBRYS, which is really cool. And the best part, it grants you an extra turn. So it's going to make you going to use that. Then you can try to A1 or A2, whatever you want. And it's going to be massive. This is a great, great, great nuker kit. And there's a passive. This passive also brings this champion to the meta by itself. Because I always say, to a champion to be a top tier champion on this meta, he needs to be able to do damage and to receive damage and not die easily. And that passive here makes that able. This champion on the second form would also be in a meta champion. But he has the first form, so he's meta on both forms. That's how incredible EMBRYS is. The passive, the generator. The passive has a passive effect and an active effect. The 5 turns cooldown only applies to the active effect. I'm going to read it first. If this champion is about to get killed by a fatal hit, preempts that hit and instantly places a revive on death buff on them for 1 turn before the damage is taken. So, this active part has a 5 turn cooldown. When you're about to get killed, it puts a revive on death on you as a buff. So you're going to get killed and revive at the same moment. That's really cool, because he's not easy to kill that way. The passive part of the generator passive. When this champion dies, reflects the damage equal to 50% of the fatal hit back to the attacker, including any surplus damage. So, if you're having someone that does a massive hit, and he's going to kill EMBRYS on the second form, he's going to die and revive, but the damage that make him die, an HP champion, which means a lot of HP, a lot of damage will be taken, will be 50% reflected to the champion that dealt the damage, which probably is going to kill that champion also. But EMBRYS is going to revive. Unless this champion has done the damage, has a surviving mechanic, he will also die. That's really interesting. Whenever an enemy is killed, places a necrosis stack on all other enemies, the same thing that happens to the first form. Necrosis stacks cannot be resisted or blocked. Necrosis stacks can only be removed by reviving dead allies. This effect does not apply against bosses and their minions. If there are multiple champions on the team with these skills, only one will activate it. Really interesting. Really interesting passive on both parts, the passive and the active. They complement itself. Really, 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 really strong champion. On both forms. On both forms. This is EMBRYS the Anomaly. Let's talk about the mastery. Here we have a mastery that you can use if you're going to play him as a nuker. This is focused on damage and focused on a nuker stats. If you're going to play him as hybrid or as support, you can add a different masters. Let me show you. Okay, if you're going to play him as mainly support, you can drag a little bit of the blue part to pinpoint charged focus, Swasm Smiter, Arcane Celerity, Lore of Steel, Cycle of Magic, and Spirit Haste. You don't need Master Hexy, but you can put it if you want to extend the duration of the decrease attack, because it's not going to increase the duration of the True Fear and not increase the duration of the Necrosis. And here we're going for that. We're going to make it this way. This is the masters you're going to use on the EMBRYS, if you're going to make him focus on the support form, or if you're going to use him hybrid, also works. If you want to fully use him as a damage dealer, you can use the masteries that Tommy Boy is using here. That is a really good masteries to a nuker only. Let's talk a little bit about relics. This champion is a massive champion. Wand of Submission is probably one of the best relics to have on him. It gives you speed, it gives you HP, and gives you accuracy in the end. This champion is a massive debuffer. He's going to put so many debuffs on the enemy on the first form and on the second form because of the necrosis passive, that if they have polymorph and the polymorph procs, you want the wand on the champion to maybe reflect the damage, the polymorph to the enemy. So Wand of Submission is the top one relic on this champion. He does not need Cat's Gaze because he's an HP champion, and the HP champions does not synergize well with Cat's Gaze. So do not waste your Cat's Gaze on EMBRYS. He does not need. Another relic that can work on him is Cyroth. Really interesting relic, but if you have other options, as for example Hallowed Hilt, also works really good on him. Volcanic Heart also works really good on him. But what I would say is the secondary best relic for him is the Death Dealer. Since he's a champion with so many possibilities, and you want to build him usually as a support and also as a nuker because he's very good in both forms, the Death Dealer makes that way easier because you're not going to waste your resources into put critical rate on him. This relic will make you always do critical, and when you suffer damage, it will be a higher damage, which makes the reflect of your passive on the second form reflects higher damages, which is incredible synergy between it. And there's more. If all the hits that you're going to do are always critical, there will be no weak hits. So you don't care about his affinity on the first form if you have the Death Dealer on him. So EMBRYS is a champion that has the Wand of Submission or the Death Dealer as the top core as relic to put on him. If you don't have these ones, you can try maybe Cyroth, it will help you a little bit. Golden Elixir, maybe Volcanic Heart, but no one is as good as the Wand or the Death Dealer for the reasons I just explained. Now, the hardest part. How to build this champion. I got this question 1,000 times in the past 2 weeks. And how should I answer to it? There is no answer. That's the truth. This champion is so good in so many forms that there isn't a best way of building him, but there are good ways that might apply to you. So the best way of building him depends on the gear you have on your account and on the possibilities you have on your account. As top one way of building him, I would say, is the hybrid. That's what I wish I could say, but it's not like this. It's not like this. I recorded all this part of the video, then I tested the champion. And I noticed one thing. For this champion in specific, there is no best option. There is no. There are only options, and all the options are good. I tested him in many different builds, and I noticed he's extremely powerful in all of them. So I will not rank the builds between top 1, top 2, top 3, top 4, top 5, I will only say option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. Choose the one that you think is better for your game style, because these champions perform in the highest level with any build you put him in that has some kind of synergy with his kit. So let me present you again the options of sets of how to build him. The first option that I think many players will have is to put him 2 turns Stone Skin. Why 2 turns Stone Skin? Because he's going to be able to use the A3 of the first form and still be safe to swap form and be able to nuke on the second form. On the second form, he has ignore defense mechanics on the skills, which makes him able to do damage even without a ignore defense set. This is the first option I advise you to choose. The second option, it's going to be 4 pieces of Stone Skin and 4 pieces of Savage, focused on damage. Because with that you can use the first form if you want, and if you don't want, you can go straight to the second form and nuke. This is a very good way of using him as a nuker build itself, normal nuker build. I'm gonna explain more details when you're going to use him on the optimizer. Third option, 4 pieces of pinpoint, 4 pieces of Stone Skin. That is an option if you don't have the wand and if you're going to put him in a lot of accuracy, because he's going to need the pinpoint if you're going to replace the buffs of your opponent and land some debuffs. You might be turned into polymorph and you don't want that. So if you're going to put a lot of accuracy on his build, pinpoint and Stone Skin could be a good option. I think between the options, this is the one that I will use the less, because I think the ones that are easier to use is 2 turns of Stone Skin or Savage and Stone Skin. The fourth option is going to be 4 pieces of pinpoint, 4 pieces of Savage. If you want to build him in a nuker build with less survivability, but really impactful, you can be able to, depend on the team that you use, take advantage of the A3 or take advantage of his nuker form the way you prefer. The fifth option is any set that you have some kind of good amount of HP, decent amount of speed, full critical hit, and the highest critical damage you can, with a slightly amount of accuracy if you want. We're gonna talk more detailed about it on the How Hades optimizer when we are going to build him. Let's go to it. Okay, we are on the How Hades artifact tractor. We are going to champions, we're going to place EMBRYS, and we are going to optimize. Here when the magic happens. We're going to choose damage mode. On preset, we're going to set up nothing. On configure, we're going to drag this bar to 0. If you want your best gear on this champion, you should include artifacts on locked champions. The masteries here are the one that we showed that Tommy Boy was using. I'm not going to move here. If you want a different one, you can use the one I showed you on the raid bro. On battle here, we're going to set up the target's defense to 5k, 6k, and the target HP to 150k on stats. So let's go. He's a champion that you want a lot of HP, and the optimizer knows that. Oh, one more thing. here you're going to set up alternate form. On start, you're going to set up alternate form. Go back to stats. Put him on the level of speed that he's going to be probably the first champion to play between your nukers, even faster than Marius. That's the first thing you're gonna put on him. 100% critical hate if you don't have the Death Dealer relic. The most amount of critical damage you can have is going to calculate it. And put him a line of 300 accuracy. If you don't want to build him as full support, I advise you to build him hybrid this way. Why? If you put a lot more accuracy than that, you're going to land a lot of debuffs, and you're going to become a polymorph most of the time, probably. And if you put a lot more accuracy, you also going to lose the secondary port of the A2 of the second form that ignores 50% of the defense if you are with higher amount of accuracy than your opponent. It's going to do double damage, but it's not going to ignore the defense. So 300 is a good number, because if the enemy is not a very tanky champion or something with very low accuracy, you're going to ignore the defense. If not, you're going to do double damage, and that's good. 300, I think, is the ideal number to put here on accuracy. So you should put this way. The artifact structure is going to calculate the HP and the critical damage. You're going to set up the amount of speed for him to be the fastest between your nukers, and set up 300 as minimal accuracy. Slots, you're going to choose HP on every top pieces, weapon, helmet, and shield. You're going to choose critical damage or HP in the gloves as Ascension, and critical damage as main stats. On the chest, you're going to choose health as Ascension and only HP percentage as main stats. On the boots, you're going to set up speed and HP percent as main stats, and speed and HP percent as Ascension. On the bottom pieces, you're going to set up Ascension as HP for the ring and only HP as option for the ring. You're going to set up critical damage as Ascension for the ring or for the amulet, and critical damage as main stats. On the banner, you're going to set up HP as main stats and accuracy or HP as Ascension. On sets, all the sets that we talked about before coming here, I'm going to set up the one that I think is I'm going to use the most. That is going to be Savage and Stone Skin. Here, 4 pieces of Savage, 4 pieces of Stone Skin. Glyphs, the highest you can put as flat HP. The highest you can put as percentage HP, the highest you can put as speed, and the highest you can put as accuracy. That's what matters for him. And you're going to optimize. As it finds the build, I'm going to explain you why we choose that. We want him to be the first champion to play between your nukers, because he's going to be able to the first form go there and remove all the stone skins of your enemy team, or go there and nuke if needed. So he's going to be a very useful nuker to be as your first form, even more useful than the horse itself, because you can even make space for the horse to do more damage. Because if you, for example, you have EMBRYS and Marius on your team, EMBRYS go there, removes all the stone skin, Mario have an easy way to go there and nuke. That happens for any other champions. He is right now the safest way in the game to remove stone skin from the enemy team. So if you have to gamble on EMBRYS, because he is the safest way to remove stone skin at the game right now. That's why between the line of your nukers, he needs to be the fastest to remove any stone skin before the other nukers come. And if he's going to be the only nuker of the team, you're able to make the choice, or to remove the stone skin of your opponents and replace their buffs, or to swap form and just nuke. And this amount of accuracy, for the reasons I explained it before, I think is the linear way between not very high, not very low, that you can take advantage of on both forms. Even the first form to land some debuffs, even on the second form to ignore the defense when needed, or do the double damage if the champion has lower than that. Okay. Is going. We find the build. Here it is. A build that has a lot of HP, the speed that we want, 100% critical hit, and the most amount of critical damage that we can. Close to 300 accuracy, because it's the linear that we set up. And we're going to equip in-game. The other options of sets that I present you, it's 2 turns of stone skin, also a really good option. The other options of set are 4 pieces of stone skin, 4 pieces of pinpoint. The other option of set is, instead of stone skin, savage and pinpoint, and there you go. Or it can be any set that you have decent amount of stats on HP, speed, critical damage, and accuracy. That said, let's equip and let's go back to that. We're gonna make some tests on the classicarena, just to show how this champion works. A little bit different from what we usually do, that we build the champion, then we test him. We're gonna test him in the build here Red got. First thing that you should know about EMBRYS. When you're facing stone skin, he always removes the stone skin with the A3 of the first form. Always. The only thing that can messes with that is if your enemy has the lightning cage blessing, the one that you see here on this Alva. The lightning cage blessing chance of blocking the removal, it is something that nullifies the 100% chance of the A3 of the EMBRYS. The second thing that you might know about EMBRYS, when you're using that skill, the unmaking, it doesn't care about accuracy. Even if your accuracy is lower than your enemy's resistance, if you have 1 accuracy and your enemy has 900 resistance, it doesn't care. For that effect here, that is the replacement from the unmaking skill, which is extremely powerful. So have in mind that you're always going to remove the stone skin unless there is lightning cage blessing on the enemy, or if there is a weak hit when you're trying to do it. It doesn't matter the accuracy, it doesn't matter the set. Let's try it here. As you see, we removed all the stone skins, but we didn't remove the stone skin of the Elva because she has lightning cage in it. That's the first thing we want to address about EMBRYS. Let's make some tests. Let's use that on them. All the stone skins were replaced. We also changed the increased defense on some of them to increase accuracy. This part needs accuracy from the skill. That's why it failed sometimes. Let me change form. Let me swap life here. And let me test the A2. We killed 2 champions. Oh my god. We survived the 130k damage. Which is interesting. They now have 2 necrosis stacks. And if I use the A1, it will double hit. Look. And block revive. He's killed. We reflected the 5k damage to her. But the passive procs and we are back. And if I kill her, it will block revive. They are back with 2 necrosis stacks that will melt their HP. As you see, the HP are dropping because of that. Block revive, 3 stacks. Block revive. Really fun champion. Really. Okay, here there are 3 champions of lightning cage. One without. If it's not a weak hit on her, it will guaranteed remove her. On these 3, it depends on the lightning cage proccing or not. It procced for half of them. Okay, let me swap form here. My HP is on the half, so I'm going to swap with his HP. And now, I'm going to A2. Look at the damage. He revived. They all have block damage, so we can't do much. Okay, now we're going to start to do some damage. Necros stacks over there. Revived. Okay, I have only half of my HP. So I'm going to swap with her and do the AoE. Look at the damage. Look at the damage. Oh gosh. He's a monster. This. Okay. Let me swap everything on them. I'm gonna revive her. Look at the necrosis. The necrosis destroyed them. Let's go test him on livearena. What the fuck? No stone skin. Are you serious? No stone skin, no polymorph. Choose wisely. Okay. I will do that. And now we'll do an A1 here. Just to block the revive. And now we'll do another A1 here. Just to block the revive again. Stone skin almost everywhere. That's why I advise you to put EMBRYS as the faster between your nukers. So he can do that. And your nuker go second. And doom. Okay. Not many stone skins. Let me remove this one. And now. Let me speed up. Speed up again. There's only one true stone skin here. We weak-hitted one of them. The Necrosis killed one. And we killed the other. Okay, 2 stone skins. Let's accelerate. Accelerate again. Let me take the stone skin away from all of them. And now. Easy peasy. Okay, let's accelerate. Let me accelerate again. I will remove that stone skins. And now. No stone skin, no survival. Oh, he took EMBRYS. You're gonna pay the price, bro. You gonna pay the price. 16 seconds. So, that's what we have to talk about EMBRYS, one of the most incredible champions in the game. That was no doubt the hardest champion guide that I ever done. Not because the champion is bad, au contrary. This champion is so amazing in so many builds that I have difficult choosing how to build him. And I still got difficult choosing how to build him, how to use him, because he's extremely powerful in more than one way, and I want to use him in all the ways. So it's a hard choice how to build him, but take your time, analyze your gear, and choose wisely how you're going to build him. knowing that he's extremely powerful in both forms, so you can take a lot of advantages of both form, and however you choose to build him, he's going to play an incredible role into your roster. This is EMBRYS the Anomaly, and like the champion name says, embrace the anomaly. If you like this kind of content, and as always, remember,
It's all about arena.